rule regarding the whole R1 thing when we talk about depreciation of assets. The rule says that the value of your asset can never be less than R1. An asset must be worth at least R1. Okay, so, and that is the problem. So we cannot keep on depreciating and depreciating an asset. It has to stop where the value of the asset is equal to R1. So let me explain this by making use of an example. If we bought a vehicle at cost price of 100,000 Rand, and the depreciation on this vehicle is 30% at cost price, okay? But the vehicle was bought in the middle of the year, of my first year. So if I have to enter this transaction into my books, I will open a vehicle account and my vehicles will increase with 100,000 Rand because vehicles is an asset and it increases on the debit side, okay? And what is important to realize always with depreciation is that you will never touch the cost price of the vehicle again. It will remain 100,000 Rand in your vehicle's account due to the historical cost principle that says all assets must be recorded at historical cost. So now when we start to depreciate this vehicle, okay, we will have to open a depreciation account and we're going to open an accumulated depreciation on vehicle account. Okay, so if we keep that in mind, that the depreciation was 100,000 Rand, 100,000 Rand at 30%, but my first year, in year one, I only owned it for half the year, so I can only depreciate it for half the year. So the depreciation, if you calculate it for this year, will be 15,000 Rand. So for year one, I'm going to credit accumulated depreciation with 15,000 and I'll debit my depreciation account with 15,000 Rand. Because depreciation is a nominal account section, this part will close off to profit and loss, and my expense depreciation will be closed down. But because accumulated depreciation is a balance sheet account section, it means the balance will just be carried over from one year to the other. So if we want to calculate at the end of year one what the carrying value of my vehicle is now, carrying value is my cost price minus accumulated depreciation. So therefore, if I say 100,000 minus the 15,000 depreciation, then carrying value of my vehicle after year one will be 85,000 Rand. Okay, carrying value tells you what your vehicle is worth at this specific day. So after 1 year, my vehicle depreciated with 15,000 Rand and is now only worth 85,000 and not like in the beginning 100,000. So if we continue then to year two, and year two, I'm going to do the same calculation for depreciation at the end of the year, but now I can calculate it for a full year because I owned the vehicle for a full year. So depreciation for year two will be 30,000 Rand. If I do the double entry in my books, then I have 30,000. What is going on with this pen now? Oh dear. Let me see what is going on. I'm sorry. It looks like I did something wrong, but there's your 30,000 Rand. So this is year two. I credit accumulated depreciation and I'll debit my depreciation again. And this one again will close off to profit and loss like every year, meaning the expense is closed off, but my value of the amount that we depreciated the vehicle at the end of year two is 45,000 Rand. So your accumulated depreciation balance is now 45,000 Rand. So if I want to calculate the carrying value now, I have to subtract the 45,000 Rand, bringing my carrying value to 55,000 Rand. So if I want to sell the vehicle at this point, my vehicle is worth 55,000 Rand. Okay, let's continue to year 3. Same thing. I'm going to calculate depreciation at the end of the financial year. It's a full year, so I can calculate it at 30% for a full year. And you'll see this is why they also call it the straight line method, because you can see that it is the same amount for full years, and that is why we call it the straight line or the fixed installment method. Okay, let's go back to the calculation. So now if I want to calculate the carrying value, okay, another 30,000 is added, so let's add my 30,000 for year 3, bringing the total depreciation at the end of year 3 to, is it 75,000 Rand? And if I make my double entry of the year 3, it's 30,000, close it off to profit and loss, because this is an expense that I use to calculate my my profit. Okay, let's calculate the carrying value. So at the end of year 3, I have 100,000 Rand, is still my cost price. The accumulation of all 3 years depreciation adds up to 75,000 Rand. So that means that my carrying value is 25,000 Rand. And this is now where it becomes, where the problem will begin in year 4. So if I want to continue to calculate my depreciation in year 4, let's first start with what is my carrying value. The carrying value is only 25,000 Rand. Okay, my rule, if we can go back, say that no vehicle can ever be worth less than 1 Rand. So now I have a problem. If I want to calculate the normal 30,000 Rand as we are used to, if I want to calculate, can you see that the depreciation will be more? I will decrease my vehicle with an amount more than what the vehicle is worth at the moment. And now it says, so my carrying value at the end of the last year is the first thing that I calculate. Because carrying value is 25,000 Rand, I cannot depreciate it. I cannot depreciate it with the 30%, which will amount to 30,000 Rand as usual. I can only depreciate it with 1 Rand less. So let me write it here, 1 Rand less than carry value, which will be 25,000 minus 1, and that gives me 24,999. Now let's go into that. So for my last year, if I enter the depreciation at 24,999, and my depreciation years also like that, and I close it off to profit and loss like every year, okay, what will the accumulated depreciation on vehicles be? This will be 9,999. And what is the cost price of my vehicle? Still 100,000. So what is the carrying value at the last year of my vehicle now? So this will be year 4. My carrying value for the vehicle is therefore now 100,000 minus 99999, which gives me 1 Rand, and that is the least that my vehicle can be worth in my books. And that simply means that the vehicle is now fully depreciated. In the 5th year, I cannot calculate depreciation again. This vehicle is now fully depreciated because the value of the vehicle is 1 Rand, and that is the 1 Rand rule. So if I want to continue now to this special case where we have a situation that we didn't buy one vehicle for 100,000 rand, but we bought two vehicles for 50,000 rand. Now the rule says that your asset cannot be an asset, not all vehicles, not your total vehicles. Each individual asset cannot be worth less than 1 rand. So per implication, if I will keep on calculating it exactly the same way, except for the last year, because if I had two vehicles at a value of 50,000 rand, then each vehicle must be worth 1 rand. So the depreciation for the last year will then just be 24,998, because I now need to have two 1 rand rules. So there are two vehicles, each worth 1 rand, and that is why the depreciation for the last year, your carrying value, will then be 2 rand because there are two vehicles. So that is just a special case that they can add to it. But basically then the 1 rand rule, if I can sum it up, simply says in your last year, your depreciation will be equal to carrying value minus 1 rand. And that will be the depreciation entry. And that will then get your asset to being fully depreciated. Okay, and that is the 1 rand rule. Thank you.